Welcome to Life Stories, where the truth sometimes stings harder than the lies. Imagine this: your family, the people who are supposed to stand by you, choose to turn their backs on your biggest day. You're standing alone, dressed in white, while they're on a vacation you didn't even know about. They've abandoned you, yet still expect you to be there when they need you. What do you do when the ones you've given everything to don't even care enough to show up? In this story, one woman finds herself at the crossroads between forgiveness and letting go, facing the painful truth that the love she's fought for might never come from those who should have loved her the most. Stay with us as we dive into a tale of betrayal, strength, and the journey toward self-discovery. What would you do when the people who are supposed to love you don't even see you for who you truly are? Sophia stood by the window, staring out at the city skyline, her thoughts swirling like the rain outside. The hustle and bustle of her high-powered career as a corporate lawyer didn't leave her much time to reflect. But today, as the gray clouds rolled in, she couldn't help but think about the one day that should have been hers, her wedding day. Her family had always been distant, but she never imagined they would abandon her so completely. When her father, Robert, didn't show up at her wedding, and her brother Ryan and his wife Jessica sent vague apologies, she tried to make excuses for them. After all, Robert was always busy with work, and Ryan had his own life. But that day, standing alone in front of the empty pews, Sophia felt something shift deep inside her. She had always felt like the invisible daughter, the one who was only valued for the checks she wrote, the one who helped her father's business without ever getting a thank you. Today, she realized it was much worse. They had chosen not to come. As the ceremony continued with her fiancé Ethan beside her, the absence of her family weighed heavily on her heart. Ethan's calm demeanor and reassuring words helped, but Sophia couldn't stop thinking about them. Why weren't they there? Was she really that unimportant to them? The questions echoed in her mind as she said, "I do." But deep down, a sharp, undeniable truth began to form. Her family had been ignoring her, sidelining her, for years. When the wedding ended and she returned to their new apartment, she thought about how she could move forward. She opened her phone, scrolling through social media out of habit. That was when she saw it. A photo posted 3 hours earlier by her brother Ryan. It was him, Robert, Jessica, and their children, all laughing, raising glasses at an exclusive resort in the Bahamas. The caption read, "The perfect family vacation without her." Sophia's heart raced as her fingers gripped the phone tightly. She tapped into the comments, and there it was, her father's comment. "She's too busy anyway." Jessica added, "Some women are just obsessed with their careers. They don't appreciate family traditions." Sophia could feel the blood rushing to her face as her vision blurred. Her mother's comment was the final straw. "It's so nice to escape the stress of her wedding. She was always too serious about everything." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes, but it wasn't sadness. It was anger, raging, blinding anger. Her father had been absent from her life for years, and now, on the day that should have been about love, he was mocking her. They were choosing their vacation over her, choosing their convenience over her happiness. And they were doing it publicly. Ethan watched silently, his hand on her shoulder, sensing the storm brewing inside her. He knew she was trying to process everything, but he also knew it wouldn't be long before she made her move. "That's it," Sophia muttered, her voice barely a whisper, but Ethan heard it. "I'll make them pay for this. Not financially. No, they've taken enough from me. But this is something I can fix." Ethan's eyes softened as he placed a hand over hers. He knew what she was thinking. He had already been aware of how her family had treated her over the years, how they had always used her, manipulated her, and taken her generosity for granted. But what he didn't expect was how far she would go to reclaim her power. Sophia's gaze hardened. "I need to gather the evidence. Everything they've done to me, all the lies, the money, the manipulation, I'll expose them all." Over the next few days, while her family continued to send apologies and messages filled with excuses, Sophia took action. She pored over old financial records, collected screenshots from social media, and dug into her father's business dealings. What she found shocked her. Her father, Robert, had been siphoning money from her business connections, using her own funds to cover up his financial mistakes. It was as if he had been using her as his own personal bank, a resource that had no limit. But there was more. As Sophia investigated, she discovered that her mother, who had always played the role of the perfect housewife, had been involved too. She had been silently complicit, aiding Robert's schemes by ensuring that Sophia stayed distracted with work while they secretly planned the family's abandonment. Ethan sat beside her as she pieced together the truth, the weight of it all settling over her. "We'll need to be strategic about this," he said softly, his voice laced with a calm that grounded her. "I'm in a position now where I can help you take them down. You're not alone in this." Sophia's fingers trembled as she typed out a message to her father. She had always tried to make him proud, to live up to his expectations, but now she saw it for what it was. A toxic relationship, one built on control and exploitation. She knew the truth now. She wasn't just his daughter. She was a tool to him, a means to an end. And that had to stop. Sophia clicked send, but instead of a response, she received a call from her father, his voice shaky on the other end. "Sophia, Before he could finish, she cut him off. "I know everything, Dad. I know about the money, the lies, the vacation, and I'm done." There was a long pause, and then he spoke again, this time with desperation. "You don't understand. You're my daughter." "No," she interrupted, her voice ice cold. "I was never your daughter. Not to you. You never treated me like one. This is over." As she ended the call, she felt something shift inside her. It wasn't relief. It was empowerment. Do you believe it's ever too late to stand up for yourself, even when you've given everything to your family? How far would you go to reclaim your power from those who have taken it for granted? Her heart pounded as she looked over at Ethan, who silently supported her every step of the way. But she knew this was just the beginning. The stakes were high, and she had already set her plans in motion. But as her phone buzzed with more desperate messages from her family, Sophia realized that the real fight had only just begun. She sat back, staring at the screen. This was just the calm before the storm, and she was ready for it. Sophia knew that in the game of family loyalty, sometimes the hardest thing to do was to walk away. But would they let her? Would they stop at nothing to get back what they thought they were entitled to? The battle had only just begun. Sophia sat in her apartment, her laptop open in front of her. She had spent the past few days gathering evidence, meticulously cataloging every betrayal, every lie her family had told her. But now, with everything in front of her, the weight of it all seemed heavier than she had anticipated. As the images of her family's laughter in the Bahamas burned in her mind, her hands trembled as she clicked through the documents. Ethan had been by her side every step of the way. His calm presence helped steady her, but she could sense the storm brewing within her. She had done what she needed to do, had fought back in the only way she knew how. But now, as the dust settled, she was faced with a new challenge. What next? She had severed ties with them. She had exposed their lies. But as she stared at the files on her screen, a new thought gnawed at her. Was she doing the right thing? The idea of confronting her father and the rest of her family had been so clear-cut at first. But now, with everything laid bare, the truth felt more complicated than she had imagined. A sudden knock on the door startled her, pulling her from her thoughts. "Come in," she called, her voice steady despite the whirlpool of emotions inside her. Ethan walked in, his expression more serious than usual. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. Sophia felt a rush of nerves. Ethan was always the pillar of strength, the calm in the storm. But the tension in his posture now made her uneasy. "What's wrong?" she asked, pushing aside the troubling thoughts that had taken root. Ethan sat down beside her, his eyes meeting hers with a level of seriousness she had never seen before. "Sophia," he began, his voice soft, "I've been thinking about your family and about you." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. She had thought the worst was behind her. She had exposed them, fought back with everything she had, but now there was something else, something that wasn't yet clear. I know you want to make them pay for what they've done, Ethan continued, and I understand why, but... He paused, as if carefully choosing his words. This isn't just about them anymore, is it? Sophia's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Ethan took a deep breath. Sophia, I've watched you for months, working yourself to the bone, fighting their battles, even when they weren't worth fighting. But this anger you have, it's consuming you, and it's changing you. It's no longer just about them, it's about how you see yourself. Sophia felt her breath catch in her throat. What are you trying to say? I'm saying, Ethan's voice faltered for a moment, that I'm afraid you've become so focused on proving them wrong that you're losing sight of who you are. You've been so determined to get justice, but in the process, you've let this anger define you. Sophia stared at him, the words sinking in. Was it true? Had she become consumed by the need for validation from people who had never truly seen her? She had fought so hard to prove her worth, but in doing so, had she lost herself along the way? I've never been enough for them. She whispered, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. They've always treated me like a tool, like something to be used and discarded, and now I'm supposed to just forget that? Ethan's eyes softened. I know what they did to you was unforgivable, but you can't let their mistakes dictate how you live your life. You can't keep carrying that weight. Sophia looked away, her mind racing. Could she really let go of all of it? Could she let go of the years of betrayal, the hurt, the rejection? Was it possible to move forward without having some kind of reckoning with the people who had broken her? She had built a career, a life, on being strong, on being the one who could handle anything. But now she was starting to wonder if that strength was only a defense mechanism. If, deep down, she was afraid of being vulnerable. Ethan reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. You're not alone, Sophia. You don't have to do this by yourself anymore. Sophia met his gaze, searching his face for any sign of doubt, but there was none. There was only unwavering support, and something else, something she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge until now, love. For the first time, Sophia realized she had been fighting for the wrong things. She had been fighting to prove herself to people who didn't deserve it. She had been chasing a future built on revenge, not healing. But the question remained, could she truly let go of the past? Could she forgive? Not for them, but for herself? Sophia stood up, walking to the window, her mind whirling. The storm outside had quieted, but she knew another storm was brewing inside her. This was a crossroads, one she couldn't ignore. I have to make a choice, she whispered to herself. Ethan stood behind her, his voice calm but firm. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But you need to make it for you, not for them. You need to find peace, not revenge. Sophia closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. Could she find that peace? Could she reclaim the life she had always wanted, the one she had fought so hard to build? Or would she continue to let her family's actions define her? What does true forgiveness look like? And can Sophia learn to forgive herself after everything she's been through? As the weight of her past and her future collide, will Sophia choose revenge or a path toward healing? Find out what happens when she takes the first step in the next chapter. Sophia had always prided herself on her ability to control her emotions. For years, she had shielded herself from the world, burying her pain in work, in the daily grind of law, and in her ceaseless efforts to prove her worth to a family that had never truly cared for her. But now, standing on the precipice of a new life, everything felt different. The anger that had fueled her for so long was slowly turning into something else, something far more powerful. She had confronted her family. She had exposed their lies. She had walked away from the years of toxic manipulation, of playing the role of the invisible daughter. But now, as she sat in the quiet of her new home with Ethan by her side, the real battle began, the one that would define her future. Sophia closed her eyes, the weight of it all pressing down on her. Her father's voice, trembling with regret, echoed in her mind. Her mother's tear-filled eyes haunted her thoughts. The words they had said, the promises they had broken, she couldn't shake them. And then there was the email, the one that had finally shattered any remaining hope that she could ever find peace in her family. But was that what she truly wanted? Peace? Or was it more complicated than that? Ethan had been her rock throughout this journey, but even he couldn't solve this for her. He could offer support, love, and comfort, but the decision was hers alone. And the truth was, she had spent so much of her life putting everyone else first. Now she had to ask herself, could she forgive? Could she let go? Or would she continue to carry the weight of her family's betrayal for the rest of her life? The phone buzzed on the table, interrupting her thoughts. A message from her mother. Sophia, please, we need to talk. I know I failed you, but you're my daughter. Please don't shut us out. Sophia stared at the screen, the words tugging at something deep inside her. For the first time in days, she felt a flicker of something other than anger, guilt. The familiar, old feeling of responsibility, of duty to her family, reared its ugly head. She had always been the good daughter, the one who sacrificed herself for the sake of others. Was this another instance where she would give in, let herself be manipulated once again? Ethan walked into the room, his expression unreadable. What is it? He asked softly, already knowing the answer. Sophia hesitated. It's my mother, she said quietly, her voice shaky. She wants to talk. They all do. Ethan's eyes softened, and he moved to sit beside her, taking her hand in his. You don't have to talk to them if you're not ready, he said gently. But Sophia, you have to make this decision for you, not for them. Sophia looked at the message again, and then at Ethan. She had already made the choice in her heart, but now she had to make it in her mind. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about freedom. Freedom from the chains of expectation, from the endless cycle of trying to be enough for people who would never see her for who she truly was. I think, she began, her voice faltering, I think it's time to move on. Ethan gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. You don't need to carry their burdens anymore. You've done enough. You've carried them for years. Sophia felt the last of her anger drain away, replaced by a sense of clarity she hadn't known was possible. She didn't need to forgive them. She didn't need to forget. She just needed to let go. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sophia found herself standing in front of her phone, a message already typed out to her family. She took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the send button. This was it, the final act, the last words she would say to them. I am no longer the person you wanted me to be. I am no longer your tool or your scapegoat. I am me, and I'm moving forward. Don't try to find me. Don't try to make this right. It's too late. Her finger pressed send. And for the first time in her life, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The weight of her family's expectations had finally been lifted. She turned to Ethan, who had been standing quietly behind her, watching. Without a word, he walked toward her and wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. Sophia closed her eyes and leaned into his embrace, letting herself feel safe, truly safe, for the first time in years. The quiet of their apartment, the soft hum of the city in the distance, was the only sound she needed. As the days passed, Sophia felt the pieces of her life slowly fall into place. She and Ethan continued to build their life together. One where she was no longer invisible, no longer the person who had to hide behind the shadows of her family's expectations. She found a new strength in herself, one that came from knowing she could stand alone. And for the first time, she realized that she had never been truly alone. She had Ethan. She had herself. Months later, they moved to a new home, one by a lake, far from the city's chaos, far from the ghosts of her past. It was a simple life, but it was hers, and it was everything she needed. But just as she began to feel settled, the doorbell rang one quiet evening, interrupting the peace. Sophia opened it to find her father standing there, looking worn, his face a mask of guilt and regret. I've lost everything, Sophia, Robert said, his voice broken. I lost my job, I lost my family, and now I've lost you. Please, I need you. Sophia's heart clenched, but she didn't move. She had already made her choice, and though the old guilt threatened to rise up again, she stood firm. "I'm sorry," she said softly, "but you lost me the day you chose to turn your back on me. You chose everything else over me, and now I have to choose me." Her father stood there for a moment, his shoulders slumped before he turned and walked away, the weight of his decisions finally hitting him. Sophia watched him leave, and for the first time she felt no regret. Ethan stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her once again. "Are you okay?" he asked. Sophia smiled, turning to face him. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I am. For the first time, I truly am." How do you think Sophia's decision will impact her future, and do you think she made the right choice? If you enjoyed this story, comment 100 below to show your support. Where are you watching from? And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Thank you for watching Life Stories.